Hello, hello. I am so excited to be here, and I'm going to wait for a couple people to get on, and hopefully Facebook is going to let me see your comments, so that makes me happy. And we'll get started in just a second. Hi. Yeah, hope everyone's doing well, and we'll see how it goes. I'm truly excited for this opportunity to show some watercolor brush pens. So anyways, I'll start in just a second. I want to get some people on. Hope you guys are doing well today. Hopefully where you're at, it's a lovely day to be outside. I wish I was outside. And I wish, no, I don't actually wish, but it's also Disney Plus Day, which I'm excited about. So the fact that you guys are here and not watching something on Disney Plus is awesome. But I love art. Hey Sylvia, it's great to see you. I think we'll get started because it says 1 o'clock here and I don't like to make people wait, but I wanted to share with you why I truly love watercolor brush pens. Um, I was gifted these watercolor brush pens by Artistro, and I got them this weekend. So over the weekend, I played with my colors. I swatched my colors, and then I also put them into. Uh, you guys, I'm such a nerd. I put them into like color palettes and put them into pencil bags, so then I can just take them whenever I go. Like, so this one's my cute critter and fall palette, and this one is my landscape and floral palette. And I just picked up some pencil bags that I got, and so now I can do my art on the go. Some of you guys know, and I don't mind sharing, my youngest son has childhood apraxia, which is a fine motor planning neurological problem. Not problem, I don't know what it is. It's just something that he was born with. And so I spend a lot of time at speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. And those times I find ways to use, I have like an hour at a time where I'm just waiting, because he's in therapy. So I find time to paint or to draw, and watercolor brush pens are fantastic. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to share with you before I get started. I just got this watercolor marker book about a month ago, and I love this book. So if you are new to watercolor markers and you love them like I do, get this book. It's full of great information. She talks about why she loves watercolor brush markers, and then she goes on. It's just a wonderful book. It's going to be one of those books that I keep around forever because of the content that's in the book. So I just wanted to share that. It's called Watercolor with Markers, and it's by Jessica Mack, and it's published by Rocky Nook. So, great book. All right, but in that book, she gave me some great ideas on how to swatch colors that I wanted to share with you, and then I'll demo them. But she likes to mix the colors together, and I'll show you how I mix them. But I thought that was kind of fun. And then I also, there's my floral landscape, or here's my floral and my landscape palette. You get 48 markers, and that's a lot of markers, and I don't always like to, sometimes I feel like if I have more options, I like stall and I don't actually create as well as I would if I only had those colors. kind of like less is more sort of mentality. I have my cute critter palette, which is super fun, very fall. I think you could use that for fall and for critters. And then I made a cute little rainbow with just to see how the colors blend with each other. So those are kind of the things that I did, and I love having my sketchbook with me and my markers, and I'm set. I'm good for an hour to do whatever I want when my son is in therapy. So yeah, it makes it fun. So let me show you the actual brush pens. I don't know if I would love to know if you've used watercolor brush pens before, and if you have, do you like to use them in your sketchbook? Do you like to use them in your cards? Do you like to use them? How do you like to use watercolor brush pens? Because I am always trying to learn. So because I already started my watercolor floral palette, I'm going to get those out. This is my watercolor landscape palette. Maybe, yeah, the landscape palette has the brown. And my florals has the purples and pinks and yellows and all the other fun colors. So I'll start with those first. Okay. Well, I'm ready to get started. So when you open your package, it comes with 48 colors of Artistro brush markers. Different brush markers come in different ways. This company just gives you 48 brush markers. And then 2 watercolor pens, which I love. I love having, I was just thinking I need new watercolor brush pens. I seem to go through about 5 or 6 of them a year. So it's really nice that they actually provide the watercolor brush markers with the pens. But anyways, if you don't have watercolor brush or watercolor pens, that's what they're called, brush pens, with no pigment, get some. They're really, really nice to have. When you open your package, you also get like information on the company and how to actually use them, and then you get some watercolor sheets, and they're pretty thick. It's at least 140-pound watercolor paper, so kind of fun. And then you get your swatch watercolor paper, which is lovely. It's not as thick as the watercolor paper that you these, but I bet they're at least 90-pound, probably 120, but not 140-pound like the stuff that I got. Anyways, yeah, the brand is called Artistro Brush Markers, and they are a family-owned company that is fairly new to the art supply scene, but so far I have fallen in love with them, and I truly recommend them. I don't like to do demos unless I like the quality, and I do like the quality of these, but I want to play, and I thought we would have fun. I wish I could zoom in a little bit more. I'm sorry, guys. There's no way for me to zoom in on this camera. My other camera was working this morning, and then it decided to not work with Facebook. It works with Zoom, but Facebook and Canon, I couldn't seem to get them to figure out why. But anyways, we'll make this work. I'll just go up close when you need to see something. I thought this would be a fun watercolor panel, and I'll walk you through kind of what I'm gonna do. We'll see if it works. I'm hopeful that it will work. I want my sky to be pretty dark, so I'm going to use this midnight blue. And then I want my pumpkins to offset the dark. So it's going to be very light. And I like to use a warm and a cool color, so I got lemon and sunflower. But if you have, I mean, this will work for any watercolor brush markers. If you're new to watercolor brush markers, this will be a great demo for you to watch and use your watercolor demo. And then I'm probably going to use raspberry, probably not magenta. And then I'll use a moss green, it's almost like a sap green, and then a viridian green, which they call jade. So those are the watercolor names. And then I'll use the brush markers, but I usually when I am I like to use these on the go. Since I'm in my studio, I will probably use my brush. And I'm just using a 8 round Princeton brush. Nothing too exciting. And I will use it, I'll show you how I like to play it. Okay, so start with my light values first, and lemon seems to be the lightest. And there's two ways I could go about it. I'm going to start by putting pigment onto the palette. You can kind of see that little red, yellow dot of pigment on the palette. I'm actually using a pie pan for this. You can use anything that you can mix watercolor on. But I'm going to take that yellow and I'm just going to make a simple wash all the way through the pumpkins. And I'm probably going to need a lot more yellow. But we can start with the 2. And then I always just add more and pick it up on the way. This is just a flat wash. If I'm not really, sorry, I'm not really paying, I mean, I want to stay in the lines, and I want it to look nice. But you just, basically, I just want to get color down. And I'm using my brush instead of actually using it on the paper, is because I want it to be a pale yellow. I don't need it to be super vibrant. Now what I can do, oh, I missed the pumpkin. I don't know if you can see it quite well on, but yeah, you can kind of see that there's a yellow tint to it. I'm going to leave this yellow. I'll probably come back to the yellow, but I'm going to start on the sunflower. Now the sunflower is going to give us a little bit more of that shading that we're looking for, and then we'll go with the red for a little bit. I'm actually going to use my marker straight on here, and I really like to do that because you can really get a lot of that depth that you're looking for. And anywhere where there's this, I love this stamp company. I'd love to know if you guys are stampers, because I am, and I love stamps. But there's some cross hatching, and that's where I'm adding the darker yellow. So anywhere where I see extra ink, the company this stamp is from Northwoods Stamps, and I love their images. I have a cardinal one that I love. I should do that one in water brush pens. That would be really pretty. But I love these pens because I can stamp this and take it to my kids. Oh my gosh, I wait for my kids are really busy, and I just kind of sit there and watch them be busy. So I need something to do to keep me occupied. But something like that, and it does, I always like to have a soft line, so you can kind of see that the edges are a little bit hard. I can blend that out a little bit. I don't think I need to a whole lot because it is just one pumpkin. But if you want to, you have the ability to soften those edges. You can kind of tell. Anyways, my plan is to get in and get out. So I'm going to spend about another 30 seconds maybe just adding this, and then we'll get into the darker colors. Who's starting Christmas cards and fall cards? I feel like September's here. Let's bring on the Christmas and the fall. Okay, and I really love how these tips, I mean, they act like a brush. I know some watercolor markers, they have a stiff tip. This is a very soft tip, meaning I can really, I don't want to say abuse the tip, but I can flatten it out and I still get a nice, it reminds me more and more of a brush than some of the other watercolor markers out there that say they're brush pens, but maybe they're not, because they don't have that brush look feel to it. But anyways, I'm just loving these, and I love that I can take them anywhere, especially my kids are either in, well, my kids are younger, they're in elementary, but we put them into like a little, we call it the little Eagles, football, so they can learn how to play football. They're in elementary school. So I'm, it's like a cross of organized chaos and learning the techniques. All right, so there's the pumpkins. I will probably go in with some red, but two yellows, and you can kind of see already that they're already forming some nice. Now, if I wanted to, I could go back in and just really blend those lines a bit more. But I really like how they are turning out, so I'm going to leave it alone. Now I'm going to take my green. I'm going to put that on my palette, a whole bunch of it. Just want a whole bunch. And now I'm going to get my I have found that you want it to be damp, but you don't want it to be juicy. So I feel like this is, I don't know, juicy. So I want to dab it on my towel for a little bit. And then I'm going to pick up this moss green. And this, again, is just a wash. And I'm going to just figure skate around the paper with wherever the leaves are. And that's going to give it a nice flat wash. Who else uses a pie pan for a palette? I'd love to know what you guys use for your palette, because when I found out that Kateri Ewing, who teaches watercolor, she uses when I went to her workshop, she's like, oh, just buy a pie plate from like the Goodwill. That's what I do. And I was like, no way do you do that. And she, oh yeah, no, it totally works. It definitely does. It's fun. I'm just wonderful. I love these brush pens because I can use it like a watercolor or I can use it like a marker. It's just, they're so lovely to work with. Okay, so now when they're a little bit wet, this is a Viridian green, which I don't always love using straight Viridian green, but I'll add it to the moss green that's already on my palette. And I get a bit more of a neutral, darker green. And I'm just going to add that kind of to the center. I feel like pumpkins leaves, they kind of are dark in the center and then they are almost yellow or light green outwards on the outside, out of the. So I'm just putting on a second layer just to give it some depth. I don't necessarily feel like spending too much time on them, but I like that. All right, now I need to make a brown. So I could just find a brown. I'm going to use my raspberry red, which at first I thought was like a cad red, and it is fairly, it's fairly bright, pigmented, like cadmium red, but it's actually pretty warm or cool as well. But I made my greenish brownish color, and now I'm just going to go up and use that for my stems. I like to use Color Harmony. I will always say, if you don't have Color Harmony, your painting is just going to fall to pieces. And maybe that's true. I don't know. Okay, so just a little stem color. I'm hopeful to do these watercolor events once a week. This is not going to be this is a new thing, but I hope that it stays. I know about 2 years ago I did watercolor demos, watercolor like live class demo things, and it really helped the members. So I'm hopeful to keep it up. If you have a demo that you really want to learn or do, tell me, because I will probably I'll probably do it. Now, I know what I want to do. I want to get this part to be dark around the yellow. So I purposely used a, a, a purple, like a bluish purple. And it might be too purpley, but we're gonna see. And this is when I need two brushes. So I'm gonna take my other medium-sized round brush and I'm going to wet it. So the one nice thing that I like about using ink is that it is it's not going anywhere. So I can get in here and it's not gonna, I'm not gonna mess with the yellow because the yellow is not going anywhere. And I'm negative painting the rest. And ooh, it's definitely giving me some Halloween vibes. That's always fun. Alright, so here's another fun thing that I like to do. So if you don't want to use the paint that's on the palette and you just want to use your marker, I'm going to show you. I like to, it's whooshing out, so I can outline this whole thing and it just whooshes out and I don't have to really, it'll move itself. I don't have to do it. Isn't that fun? I love that feather look. But you have to be fast because the paper will dry and then you're stuck. And I always like to go out, like away. Yeah, I'm going to use the rest of this to. And I will probably do another glaze over this because I really want my background to be dark. And even if you want to just have this as a transparent purple, to see where your brush is, you could very much do that. I'm just wetting this paper. This is negative painting at its best, and I always enjoy it. I used to not like negative painting, but I got enough water on that now it's just gonna kind of do its own thing. And you saw, I was using a brush and I thought, oh, I'll just use the pen, because the pen actually works quite well as a brush when you want it to have dark pigment. So I just want to add a little bit more water. I can move this pigment out from the pumpkin. And you could probably spend an hour on the background. I don't know if I'm actually going to spend a whole hour on this background. I could. I don't know if it's going to help the painting or not. I'm going to say it's not going to. But you get the idea of how to do the background. I'll at least finish this layer. If you don't, if you stop midway through, you're going to get some unappealing watermarks, and I don't want that. And again, I'm using this as like a figure skater on ice. And so that's a good negative painting technique that I always like to do, especially with watercolor pens. Whoosh. Okay, there's that. If you're still with me, thank you. I'll show it. And then if it was me, you could add some watercolor splatters to the sky. But I think I would do another layer, and I think I would do actually blue. So when this dries, I'll show you what I mean by adding the blue. Let's work on the bottom. I really kind of like the idea of doing like a like a greenish, brownish color. So I'm going to use my sap green or my moss green, and I'm just going to go right up to wherever I ended with the purple. And go in dark. Yeah, if you think of these as more like just paint on a paintbrush, I think you'll have a lot of good luck with these. It's when you try to use them as markers sometimes that I always mess up. But if you just say, okay, this is my paintbrush, something about it will make it work. Alright, so you can kind of see how that's blending. Isn't that beautiful? And I'll even go all the way up here and then down. And I might not even need to do a whole lot more with the green at the bottom. Can, might, but you don't have to. All right, there's that. I think I'm going to add some of that moon glow, midnight blue. I say moon glow because it reminds me of moon glow from Daniel Smith. And this, I'm just using as like a paintbrush, and I'm holding my pinky out, like I'm actually really just holding the pen like this, very loose, like a, you know, if you're gonna just do some loose painting. So that's, but I am holding it a little bit tighter than just really loose. But I want my pinky out, and that will kind of guide where my brush goes. But I do like adding the purple with the green because it gives it a nice contrast. Same thing with the green. I just want a little bit of that depth that says it's painted. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to add, I really want my pumpkins to pop, so I'm going to add some more of this watercolor. This is pretty much dry watercolor paper. And I just want to add to it. Okay. That looks better. That makes me feel better. Who's going to a pumpkin patch this fall? We used to, and now my kids are just old enough, they're like, that's not fun anymore. Whatever. They don't know. I say pumpkin patches are fun. Okay. I'm loving that. I'm loving that sky. It's very indicative to fall, I think. I'll show it to you. It's quite a lovely little card, I think. Now, I do want to add a little bit of red to the pumpkins. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of add it in the bottom of the pumpkins. And I'm going to do a little bit at a time. And then with a clean brush, a clean damp brush, I'm going to move that red up a little bit. And it's almost like I'm going to glaze over the yellow to give it more of an orangey look. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, so much fun. So I'll show you again. I'm going to take this and then I'm going to glaze. Just take that damp brush and go all the way up. This is technically called glazing. Let me know in the comments if you have used brush pens, or if you like using watercolor brush pens, or if it's totally new. If it's totally new, Um, Welcome to the world of watercolor brush pens. They're so much fun to use. Okay, and now I'm gonna glaze it again. You wanna just spend a little bit of time. If I try to do all of it at once, um, first off, I feel like it's not fresh. I feel like when you're in the moment a bit more, it just works better. Could be wrong. I'm going to put this down for just a second. But I'm loving this red with the orange. It just, it's so yummy. I don't know, you can see it. It's pretty fun to do. And I would do that the whole way through. I don't know if this is worth doing or not. But I'll just keep going. I hate leaving I hate leaving paintings unpainted, especially when I'm on a roll. Do you guys organize your brush pens and palettes? If you do, I'd love to know that too. Only because that's the only way I know how to create is once I have I'm inspired by color. Like that is like 90% of my inspiration is from color. So of course I organize my markers, my paints, my palettes. They're always organized by seasons, colors. Yeah, I'm really loving how this is turning out. If you want a good pumpkin tutorial, I learned this technique on Steve Mitchell's Mind of the Watercolorist, and I just love his channel. But look at how beautiful this is turning out to be. And like I said, like I could take hours building just the background up, and I could spend hours just doing the pumpkins, but I at least want to finish it so you guys can see a finished product. Would you be interested in doing a class on watercolor brush markers? I have a couple of YouTube videos up on watercolor brush markers, not from this brand particularly, but from other brands but you know, they're all ink based, water soluble brush pens. It doesn't matter what brand. Get some that will work with what you want it to do. Yeah, I'm really loving this red. It's making quite a lovely orange. Now if I really wanted to, I can leave a couple things out, but those are some orange pumpkins, and we didn't even use orange. We used 2 yellows and a red. Alright, so there's that. Do you want to see how I blend them? Like if I were to play with my colors and how I blend them together? Like swatches? I can show you real quick with the colors. So this is how I like to do swatches when I want to blend. And then I'm also curious, do you use brush pens with calligraphy? Because I know a lot of people do that as well. So I'm just going to block in some color. And then I'm going to add like one line this way. And what I have learned is you want to get this wet. So it's just a nice big puddle of yellow, and then you can go in and blend it with the red, but this was raspberry red, and you get quite a lovely blend. So if you use Copics, you realize that something like this, you would need probably, what, 3 or 4 markers? This one you're only using 2, but you're using water as your blender. So, but it is dye, so once it's on the paper, it doesn't come off very well. Let's try a different ones. Let's try jungle green and aquamarine. I always go with the light on the left side. I don't know if it matters. It probably doesn't. But then I just want a couple lines on this side. See, now I feel like the aquamarine is a little bit more lighter than the green in value. But we'll go with the green first. So I'm making it quite a lovely green. I'm going to clean my brush off. Now it's just damp. And I'm going to bring those two together. And I get almost like a sea green color. It's quite lovely. And you could do this all day. Maybe I'll do one more. And then what I like to do is once I get a page like this together, I will doodle on these squares. Maybe a floral motif, or maybe leaves, or, you know, the sky's the limit to your imagination. Doodles. I think food would be a fun one to doodle on. Cupcakes. Clean my brush because I'm going in with a different color. And blending it in together. Just like that. And then it is there. That's beautiful. Alright, so those are some of the techniques that I like to use in watercolor brush pens. There's a ton more techniques that I can show you, but I wanted to leave it at that. If you don't have watercolor brush pens and you like to paint on the go, watercolor brush pens are a must. If you like the brand Artistro, definitely get it. I think I will use these until they run out because I really have fallen in love with them. They are very pigmented. They're ink based, so they're not dye based, so they do stain the paper, but you do get some really pretty looks. And they come in, so this was my floral palette. I always like to do, like, it's almost a split palette, but it's in very vibrant colors, as you can tell. I also did one that's a little bit more muted. I'll show you that. And I used some of these colors in my landscape ones too, but I have two blues. I have a cerulean and then what I would call a cobalt. So those are on warm yellow, because I think most of the time sun is warm. So of course I needed the warm sunshine. And then I needed a rose pink. It's actually quite muted. It's not a rose. It's not a pinky. It's this color. It's almost like a violet, like a red violet, or a cobalt violet. Maybe I would call that cobalt violet if you were to get it in watercolor. So that's why that's there. Scarlet is always like cad red, and then coffee brown for trees and all the other fun things in the fall. So that is my landscape palette. And then I also have a cute critter palette that I made. These all come in the same group, but I like to make different palettes, so when I feel like painting florals or landscapes, I can just take this. If I want to do cute critters, these are all mostly of my browns and peaches and, you know, yeah, you can tell, like, they're just my neutral colors, and they come with a black and two different values of gray, but you don't need a whole lot of different values of gray because you can dilute them in watercolor. Now see, here's my oranges that I didn't use on the pumpkins because I wanted my pumpkins to be super duper vibrant, and I got that by using yellow. So anyways, I don't know, what do you guys think? Did you enjoy this demo? There's the rest of my cute critters. It's mostly pinks and browns and all the subdued colors that just work. Yeah. So, anyways, I'd love to get your opinion on this, and if you have any suggestions for next week, I'd love to hear them. Have fun creating. I love, love, love these watercolor brush pens. I think they are going to be a staple in my in my art bag, or in my, I call it my bag, my purse, for quite a long time, until they start running out of colors, which will be probably a year from now. I go through watercolor markers pretty fast because I use them all the time. But hopefully this gives you some good ideas on how to use your colors, and if you have questions, let me know. I'll stick around for a minute or two just in case you guys have any questions. You are totally welcome, Gina. I'm grateful that you are here. And I'll type in the comments, it's off Artistro. And then there's the link just in case you do want them. I'll probably do a Facebook Live next week. Something, it's got to be on color, because this time of year is so vibrant with colors that I might just do like a fun leaf abstract sort of demo using all the warm colors of the fall. But anyways, if you have any questions after I close the video, just comment and I'll get back to you on it. Other than that, have a wonderful day and happy painting. All right, goodbye.